I think this is a good opportunity for me to congratulate the people of Kibra for allowing the election to proceed up to round about 11:30, 12, thereabout. I also wish to take this opportunity to thank and congratulate my candidate, Mariga, for the performance that he showed. But it could have been better if the election had not been brought to a standstill by the tactics that had long been schemed, which are there on record, that some of the leaders of the ODM actually premeditated, planned, and actually unleashed the violence that made it difficult for our voters to vote. If the voting had ended at the official time at 5, Mariga would either have narrowed the gap or would actually have had an outright win. It is common sense to all of us who are on this panel that voters on voting day find it difficult, especially women, to come and cast their votes. But that is all water under the bridge. I think the area where you want me to comment on is what I've had my brother Otiende speak to, the issue of my role in the violence that we saw in Kibra. I have seen a lot of people troll me on social media, and basically majority of them are actually poking fun. But we have a few of them, like Amolo, who are making a joke out of a matter of life and death. I am glad, Amolo, that I never gave you the opportunity. All the opportunity you wanted was to get me in a situation where I was an object of pity and humiliation. That's all. You see, the reason why countries have defense forces is not to go and cause mayhem. They have defense forces because if the need arises, they would have to defend the country. And that is the basic human nature. You must have the capacity, especially as a man, to defend yourself, defend your family, defend your community, and defend your country. The issue of violence, Libal, and I want to repeat it here, that it did not start with Raila yesterday. When I hear Amolo say Khalwale has transformed and he has degenerated, I really think you are really young in politics, not in age, but in politics. Because I remember in 1994, Amolo, when Michael Kijana beat up Raila, after Raila came to attack us with guns in Thika, when he beat him up until he had to hide under the table, that did not stop Michael from becoming the deputy president, the vice president of Kenya. So now that I've called your goons bluff, beaten them up, that is not going to stop me from that God said I'm going to ascend to. And now, let's come to specifically in Kibra. Amolo, you are lucky that at the moment ODM is enjoying a degree of power. You have some power from the handshake. And Kenyans have seen what you can do if you have some power. I'm sure if you are not having half of that power that you are having from the handshake, and you had all the power that you want, you would bring this country to its knees. Can you imagine a situation whereby a accredited agent like myself and many others, Osoro, Didmus Barasa, Washiali, Maluli Njendi, all of them who are roughed up, accredited agents at a polling station on election day, being visited by a militia owned by a political party, a militia that was given orders to move in the open by the Secretary General Sifuna, that was brought by on motorbikes by Simba Arati, that was escorted by Honorable Junet. You are having that power, and that is why the police was not acting. We hope that you will never have the opportunity, Amolo, to lead this country, because you can lead our country to chaos, or our country can collapse. Finally, but not least, I've learned a lesson from this election. The first one, that it was possible at that election for Raila and his party to rewrite their signature, as Michael Kijana would have said in golden letters. Your signature of chaos and violence. You have written that. Number two, I have also learned at this election that unless the recommendations by the curricular report are acted on by the state, and not this nonsense of PBI, the curricular report is the one that sufficiently addresses the issue of election violence. I know these funny things of Akina Paul Mwangi. Mwangi, I know, a personal lawyer, a private lawyer of Raila, that is trying to write a PBI report or something like that. Unless the government acts on it, what ODM and Raila did in Kibra is going to take us to a very bad election in 2022. You know, what you saw in Kibra is akin to what is in DRC. In DRC, we have warlords. If you go to the eastern part of Congo, we have the man who controls. If you go to the central part, somebody else controls, and so on and so forth. So as Raila enjoys to give the impression that he controls Kibra and Nyanza, he must know that if the government is going to allow other people to do it, somebody will control Western, another person will control another corner of the country, and then we shall not have the country called Kenya. The third lesson I learned, I'm finishing, is IEBC. IEBC, if using the current constitution and the current electoral laws, will not take sanctions against Raila and against the ODM party, then IEBC is telling us they're unable to control an election. Finally, the final point I learned was from the behavior of the security forces. Either Matiang'i couldn't move because of the handshake, or he couldn't move because of his kid brother or cousin or whatever called Simba Arati. Otherwise, he had every opportunity to defend everybody, including myself. I think that's all I'll have to say, and end it by saying that never, and I'm glad Esel is here, never in the culture of a Luya man can you allow a small and circumcised boy to challenge you and you run away. It's not possible. All of us in our history, even at war, we die facing the enemy. We don't show them the back. And these are not things that started yesterday.
So from your own assessment, you think down in Kibra, you acted in the wisest of fashion?
Exactly.
By actually picking up stones?
Exactly.
Because but you being a leader and the people looking up to you, do you think actually you're driving the right kind of message when in the context of election violence?
There is a saying that if you're confronted by a rattlesnake, you don't ask which weapon you're going to use to defend yourself. It's going to bite you. So the situation we were dealing with in Kibra was a war situation. And unless I was having ideations of committing suicide, then I would have sat there with my hands folded on the head, that these people could pity me. They came for me. I'm glad I repulsed them.
All right.
Like the man that I am.
Okay.